Good morning, and welcome to your morning cereal. Okay, good morning, and welcome to Thursday. Well, it's National Name Tag Day, so hello, my name is Sean. I'm a husband, a father. I've been in finance for 25 years. I'm a business owner, and I live in Texas. What's your name? Well, you can get back to me on that one, but in the meantime, I'll also tell you that it's National Oreo Cookie Day, and I'll be happy to check that box at lunch, and ironically, it's also National Dentist Day. I'd like to know who the smarty pants is that put those 2 days together. I just don't really appreciate that. Well, if you're in school or you have kids in school, they'll enjoy the fact that it's also No Homework Day. And I'll be curious to know if any of the teachers are aware of that. Interestingly, the issue of how effective homework assignments are has been hotly debated over the years, and in general, the consensus seems to be that homework has not proven to particularly improve the academic performance of students. But hold on, kids, and I'm speaking to my kids now, getting your homework done does improve your grades and the colleges that you'll get into, so do your homework. All right, well, let's do some quotes. One fun, nostalgic quote, and then a second quote to tease our book review later in the episode. Hopefully, one of these quotes will speak to you, jumpstart your day in a positive direction. The first quote is from the artist Michelangelo, who said, quote, "If people knew how hard I worked to get my mastery, it wouldn't seem so wonderful after all," end quote. I love it. There are no shortcuts to success. You absolutely have to put in the time and the effort. Well, today's teaser quote from the book review is, quote, "People are honest and want to discharge their obligations," end quote. And as usual, we'll unpack that here in just a minute during the book review segment. But first, let's jump into our usual dose of fun and historic facts from this day in history. And today's news facts and birthdays are from March 6th. We're going to start way back in 1475, and the man who provided our first quote today, the Italian artist Michelangelo. He was born in the Republic of Florence on this date. Then on this day, King Tut's tomb was first opened in 1924, and King Tut's burial chamber had been discovered 2 years earlier in 1922. Then let's move 100 years up the timeline, 110 to be exact. In the year 1834, on this date, Toronto, Canada was incorporated. Then in 1836, the Alamo in Texas, it fell after a 13-day siege. Then in 1869, on this date, at a meeting of the Russian Chemical Society, the Russian chemist Dmitry Mendeleev, he presented the first periodic table. Then in 1899, the German company Bayer, they patented and trademarked aspirin. Finally, to the 20th century, in 1902, that's when the soccer club Real Madrid, it was founded. Then skipping up 62 years to 1964, that's when American boxer Cassius Clay, he took the name Muhammad Ali. And then skipping up to the 1980s, that's when in 1981 on this date, journalist Walter Cronkite, who was known as the most trusted man in America, he signed off for the last time as the longtime anchor of the CBS Evening News. CBS replaced him 3 nights later with Dan Rather. And then finally, a fun fact on this date in 2018, the world's oldest known message in a bottle was found in Western Australia. Apparently, the bottle was thrown from a German ship in 1886. 132 years earlier. Well, happy birthday if today is your birthday. You share a birthday with the Diesel, Shaquille O'Neal. He turns 53 today. And economist Alan Greenspan. He'll be 99. All right, well, the number one movie on this date back in 1993 was Falling Down. This is a movie starring Michael Douglas about a man having a bad day with a car breaking down on the LA highway, and it follows his adventures trekking across LA to get to his daughter's birthday party. Honestly, I had never even heard of this movie, so homework assignment for everyone. Watch this movie, and we'll regroup at a later date to discuss in more detail. Now, the number one song, however, everyone should know, but you might not know it as well as you might think. The number one song on this date in 1986 was Kyria by Mr. Mister. This is a quintessential 80s song that I think everybody knows. The song's title is Kyrie, with the opening line, Kyrie eleison, which means, Lord have mercy. And the band says that the song is about a non-religious dogma, meditative prayer that realizes just how insignificant humans are in the whole of the universe. I had actually never looked up the lyrics on this song before doing a little bit of research for this, and this is 100% a song that I made up my own lyrics for. Come to find out, I was way off, and the song keeps repeating the Kyrie eleison line. Listen to the song. Tell me you didn't do the same by just making up some words that sounded somewhat similar. You can catch a clip on the Morning Serial Instagram page. Okay, well, let's move on to some personal growth where you don't have to settle for just a clip. You can get the book review segment of Morning Serial in its amazing totality right here, right now. This is where we take a few moments to reflect on the lessons learned from the current book we're reading. And currently, as you all know, we're reading through Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a timeless book that is consistently on all the must-read lists, and it is packed with rock-solid advice and actions for all of us to use and build healthy foundational concepts to live by. Yesterday, we began Chapter 10 of Part 3 with that chapter entitled An Appeal That Everybody Likes. And in this chapter, Carnegie discusses the fact that he believes most people among us are idealists. Carnegie says, quote, "The fact is that all people you meet have a high regard for themselves," end quote. And they like to think of themselves as unselfish and noble. Because of this self-view, many of us have two reasons for doing something, right? The first one is the real reason that we're doing it, which can often be a little bit selfish. But the second reason is something that sounds good to others, right? Often appearing to be the more noble of the reasons to outsiders. So Carnegie says that when we are trying to appeal to other people, we should try and appeal to those secondary reasons. Appeal to their nobler motives. In Carnegie's next illustration, he documents the different methods a car company took in collecting some overdue bills from multiple customers. And in this story, there are 6 customers that refused to pay a bill due to the fact that there was an issue with one of the line items on the bill. So not the whole bill was wrong, but just a detail or two of it in their opinion. And because of that, they did not want to pay. Now, initially, the company's credit department went to the customers demanding to be paid, saying that they, the car company, was absolutely right in the billing, which also suggests that the customers are absolutely wrong. And finally, the credit department, by the way they spoke to the clients, were suggesting that they knew far more about cars. They were far superior. And why would the customers even bother double guessing them? Well, that turned out just as you would expect, just more arguing, and they didn't get paid. So prior to threatening legal action, the general manager did some research on the customers, and he found out that each of these customers had historically paid on time. So he knew something was up. So the GM decided to approach the customers himself, also knowing that the bills were correct in their view, but he didn't say that to them. He said that he was there to listen to what his company had done or had failed to do. He wanted to hear their story and hear from them about only their car specifically, because they were the foremost expert on their car. After people are able to get things off their chest, they are generally more reasonable. And it was at this time that the GM appealed to their more noble motives. He said first he thought the matter had been mishandled, and he apologized for that. Then the GM said he knew they were fair-minded and patient, and then he asked each of them individually to look over the bill, make whatever changes they deemed were correct, and that would be the final bill. He left it up to them. And for the most part, the way the story goes, most of them made minor to no changes to the bills, and only one of the 6 took advantage of the situation. But all 6 remained customers, and they eventually bought new cars in the coming years. Here's what the GM said of that matter. Quote, "Experience has taught me that when no information can be secured about the customer, the only sound basis on which to proceed is to assume that he or she is sincere, honest, truthful, and willing and anxious to pay the charges, once convinced they are correct. To put it differently, and perhaps more clearly, people are honest and want to discharge their obligations. The expectations to that rule are comparatively few, and I am convinced that the individuals who are inclined to chisel will in most cases react favorably if you make them feel that you consider them honest, upright, and fair. End quote. Okay, here it is. In a chapter entitled An Appeal That Everybody Likes, Carnegie's principle number 10 is appeal to the nobler motives. This is really a master's class in leading people to the water's edge and learning to do so with sincerity and positivity. Well, fantastic job, team. We only have 2 more chapters in part 3, and each one will take us just 1 day to cover, and then we are into the final part 4, of how to win friends and influence people. Just for perspective, we're on page 191 now, and we finished the book on page 247, so we are nearly there. Great job. Well, come back tomorrow for chapter 11 entitled, The Movies Do It, TV Does It, Why Don't You Do It? I'm in. I hope you are too. Well, you know how I like my little sayings to keep us moving forward, so here's a new one that I haven't used yet. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. Sometimes that's the hardest step, but do it, and then do it again, and do it again. Well, thanks for joining us today. We'll see you back here tomorrow, and have a fantastic day. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the Morning Serial podcast on the One Life Live It channel. You can find more episodes and videos by visiting our YouTube channel and the website at Sean Inglis and at SeanInglis.com, where you can also follow our other podcasts, the Mr. and Mrs. Inglis podcast and the Life Happens podcast. In these other podcasts, we'll dive deeper into everyday issues, self-improvement and well-being, business and finance, and we welcome special guests too. So join us. It'll be a good time, I promise. Thanks again for listening. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you tomorrow.